With a Jeff Hardy reference made on Dynamite and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for February 10th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official, and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. With AEW promising a debut for Dynamite last night, fans would be in for a treat as Keith Lee and Jay White made their first appearances for the promotion. AEW President Tony Khan would explain the situation surrounding the New Japan star, with him taking to Twitter to say, "I didn't secure Jay White until Sunday. I realized after the fact that Friday night, I butchered my own definition of Forbidden Door and hyping tonight. I heard the fans' feedback and wanted to ensure that tonight was a special Dynamite for all. Thank you everyone who watched." Jay White will be back on AEW programming this week for Rampage, so we'll have to see what's next for Switchblade. At the Royal Rumble, Shane McMahon would garner a ton of heat from backstage personnel due to his pitches to be a big part of the men's Rumble match. This would lead to Vince McMahon sending his son home. Now Shane has been spotted, with Marco Mazzato, owner of South Africa Sharks Rugby, taking to Twitter to post a photo and say, "So grateful for a night out with brother Shane McMahon, son of WWE Vince, and Doug Sifu, co-owner of Florida Panthers. Excited for a partnership between WWE and rugby." It would also be reported that Shane McMahon's replacement for WrestleMania has already been decided, as we'll hopefully get an update on who that will be soon. AEW has made leaps and bounds since beginning as a pro wrestling promotion, as Tony Khan recently told PW Insider how he breaks down TV ratings. Well, I think it's all context, and I look at the overall rating, but also look at the rating for the individual segments and the quarter hours, and then put it in context year over year. As you said, we've had a really strong year so far for Dynamite and Rampage. Rampage recently has done some of the best numbers we've had since October, and for Dynamite this year, we're up over 30% so far in 2022 versus 2021. Some of that has been the move to TBS and the great lead-ins, which has worked out really well for us, and a lot of it has been that the roster is stronger, and there are more great names on the roster than there were at this time last year, so the ratings are much higher than they were when we started 2021, and that's something I'd like to keep up, and a trend we'd like to keep continuing. So I think this is a week where you have to make it a must-watch show, and this is a week where hopefully, with surprises and the positive word of mouth about last week's show, the really great match the Punk and MJF had, the great segment was Danielson and Moxley, or even coming off Rampages. So looking at the ratings, absolutely in my position, in our position, you really do care what the number is each week. But it's also important to look at what drew within the show, what segments did well, and then when you're planning the next week's show, you look at that. I definitely learned a lot, and I try to do that every week, and hopefully make a more informed decision on scheduling the show and putting the formats together. As I said, for the show to be over 30% where we were last year, it's pretty awesome, and it bodes really well for us, and I think we can keep that momentum going. So from talking to TNT and TBS executives several times a week about these numbers for the different shows, for Dynamite and Rampage, the different demographics, they spend a ton of time studying it, and have given us a lot of really positive feedback about our growth, particularly in the young audience, where we've got huge growth year over year. During that same interview, Tony Khan would give an update on Kenny Omega's return status, saying, "We miss Kenny Omega greatly. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time and was a dominant champion in AEW for almost a year, and I personally miss Omega being around very much. He's healing from a bunch of injuries, significant injuries, and he wrestled through all of that and had some of the best matches in the history of the company while he was really beat up. He really cares a lot about wrestling, and he worked his butt off to fill up and make his matches great even when he was in a ton of pain and could barely get through it. Now it's time for him to rehabilitate and heal, and he's going to come back stronger and come back, I hope, as good or even better than ever. I really believe the stuff he did while he was physically limited was so impressive. I think he was absolutely the wrestler of the year for 2021, and I'm very excited for Omega's return in 2022. It'll be a long time coming, and we'd be excited to have him back. Omega last competed at Full Gear 2021, losing the AEW World title to Hangman Page. For now, it looks like a feud between the Undisputed Era and the Elite could be on the horizon. In another open challenge this week, undefeated TBS champion Jade Cargill put her title on the line against a student of Booker T's and former NXT star A.Q.A. Cargill was looking frustrated throughout the bout, as this match was discussed on Wrestling Observer Radio, with it said, "What was not good was Jade Cargill and A.Q.A. This was not Jade Cargill's fault. I don't know what was going on in this match, but Bryce Remsburg, he should probably be paid double, because that dude is in there, he's calling spots. He's screaming at A.Q.A. what she's supposed to do next. She's just lost, and Jade's frustrated, and she gets the pin, and you could tell Jade's all pissed off. This is just not good." On AEW Dynamite, former WWE star Keith Lee would make his debut for the promotion, facing and defeating Isaiah Cassidy to qualify for the Face of the Revolution ladder match. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer would express his concern over Lee, saying he has to lose some weight. That's just the reality. I mean, he was made to look good by Cassidy, but he's much heavier than he was even in his NXT days, let alone his independent days. And for a guy whose big thing is agility, he did a couple of cool moves and everything, but he was low on the leapfrog. I mean, Cassidy made it look good. His speed wasn't his old speed, and that's what happens when you get older. But that's why when you get older and you're a big guy, it's incumbent on you to be at a lower weight, not a heavier weight. So Keith's got to lose weight to be the old Keith Lee. With many fans confused by what a Forbidden Door signing means, Dave Meltzer would tell the story of the term's origin, saying, "So the story in the Jay White thing was in that when Tony was hyping Forbidden Door, everybody was starting to think, who from New Japan is coming over? Because that's the Forbidden Door." And actually, it's funny, because I've been asked, so I might as well answer it here. Where did that term come from? And it was actually a term that Hiroshi Tanahashi came up with to build up his match with Chris Jericho at the Tokyo Dome a couple of years back. And then people just took it as like, because the relations with New Japan and AEW were not good under Harold Mage. I mean, I was there when it happened, and it was, there are so many people who try to defend New Japan on this. I mean, I know where their mentality was. I was talking to them when this was going on, and I knew both sides of the story when this was all going down. The reality was, New Japan figured these were a bunch of wrestlers trying to start a wrestling company who were going to flop badly, and they had a relationship with Ring of Honor, and they basically blew them off. They hadn't announced it, but they had a deal with TNT. They're going to be on TNT, most likely. It could have been Showtime, but it was going to be TNT. So they were going to probably be on TNT. I can say that in Japan, they don't know what that means. That's the problem. Ring of Honor kind of became obsolete. And I figured that Ring of Honor was going to become obsolete unless they didn't draw on TNT and got canceled. Then it would have been bad. But they were going to get a multi-year deal. And I didn't think they were going to flop. I didn't think they were going to do the numbers they did. No one in wrestling did. They were only looking for a 0.2, which would have considered acceptable. I thought that number was, reasonable to expect, especially before we knew NXT was coming against them. We all knew NXT was going to come up against them because that's just Vince. Vince is very predictable when it comes to that type of stuff, because of Harold not wanting to do any business with them and wanting to do business with Ring of Honor, just fell apart and became the Forbidden Door. And then when Harold was out, then it opened up the door for them to do some business, and obviously they're doing business now. Also on Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer would touch on the potential headliner for the Revolution pay-per-view, which will more than likely be Hangman Page defending his AEW World title against Adam Cole. There is nothing official, but they pretty much made it clear at the end of the show, after Rampage was over and not on the air, they pretty much said that it's Adam Cole. They brought in Cole at the end of the show. Tony, he didn't quite say it, but if you watched the show, you knew it was coming. It's Adam Cole and Adam Page, and I presume that's going to be on the pay-per-view. I know that's Adam Page's next championship defense will be Adam Cole. The pay-per-view is March 6th, so now we're only a couple of weeks away. I'm presuming that's the pay-per-view main event. It looks, from tonight's show, like CM Punk and MJF are going to do a rematch, which I guess would be a stipulation match in some form. I don't know what the stip would be, but some sort of rematch. During Keith Lee's AEW debut match against Isaiah Cassidy, Matt Hardy would abandon Cassidy by jumping the guardrail ringside and leaving through the crowd. This is how Jeff Hardy walked out on a WWE live event in early December leading up to his release. On commentary, Tony Schiavone would say this was an erratic move by Matt, which is a reference to reports that Jeff's behavior was erratic. While Matt Hardy also previously hinted at Tony Khan buying out his brother's WWE non-compete clause, Jeff will be available to sign with another promotion on March 10th. Following his victorious in-ring AEW debut, Keith Lee took to Twitter today to reflect on this writing. "We got a lot of work to do still, but I more than appreciate the warm welcome back. The person with the sign that had the same silhouette that's on the front of my hoodie, thank you, touched my soul. And with sad family times hopefully behind me, let's grind." With her set to take on Becky Lynch at the Elimination Chamber event in Saudi Arabia, Lita talked to Ring the Bell about her WWE comeback and the stream match. "I think this match is like a true generational clashing match because we are very kindred spirits. She lives like a pirate, kind of took a very meandering journey to get her spot in WWE. Same thing for me, so I kind of cut from the same cloth. I saw a lot of her in me as she was starting, as I first just met her. And then to be at home and watch her catch fire, I was like, girl, not only did I know she had it, but also I was like, let me in there." And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.